My experience at Navy was totally defined by being an athlete.
Those who are not physically fit don't do well academically either.
I always did better academically during the season.
I understood that nothing came easy. It required a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work.
An important part of the Naval Academy is that you're tested. You've got to dig down a little bit deeper and find out what you're really made of.
It was that mental toughness given to me by my coaches, I think allowed me to realize that, you know what, you could accomplish that.
That push to figure out what your limits are.
Sports taught me discipline, determination, teamwork.
It gives you the focus and the drive.
What athletics gives you, it gives you the discipline, it gives you the perseverance, it gives you the resiliency. You get knocked down, but you got to keep going.
Athletics is full of tough decisions, and you learn how to deal with those tough decisions as a midshipman. It makes you very mission-oriented. The mission is winning, and that's athletics and that's war, and that's what they teach you there.
The mission of the U.S. Naval Academy is to produce well-balanced naval officers. As the front line in our nation's defense, they must be morally, mentally, and physically fit.
The three pillars of our process here is moral, mental, and ultimately physical. And the physical mission is a critical component of future leaders, both in the military, but also in government, in business. That competitive edge is exactly what we must have in those that are going to defend our nation and ultimately going to serve and enhance the quality of life in America, to ensure that what we have here, this legacy, is passed on to those that are our children and grandchildren.
In 1944, a foundation was established to support the physical mission of the Naval Academy. In its early years, it was led by men like Admirals Fitzgerald, Denfield, Peary, and many others. But the two who set the foundation's original course were alumni Piggy Jones, class of 19, and the Academy's assistant athletic director, one Rip Miller. Miller was well known for being one of the 7 Mules, the tough offensive lineman on Knute Rockne's championship football team. And Rip wanted the Navy to follow Notre Dame's winning strategy. Don't wait for good athletes to apply. Recruit them instead.
He said many times, I can't build this team up with the boys who come in the main gate. We have to go out and find some.
Rip Miller had a group of people called his bird dogs that were actually scouters for people who were fairly good athletes that wanted to come to the Naval Academy, or that the Naval Academy wanted to recruit.
What Rip quickly realized is not everyone who is recruited to the Naval Academy is ready to meet the rigors of the institution's academic programs. But he also knew that if you gave them another year of preparation, they would most likely succeed.
Rip had to find places where these boys could go for prep school. Rip would go out to sell this idea. We'll bring you players if you let us have it free, because they haven't any money. These boys have no money.
The whole idea was help kids get in to the academy and put them in our prep schools. It all was so worthwhile because the kind of kids that were coming in were what we wanted at the Naval Academy and what we wanted as future naval leaders.
Thus, the Foundation's original mission was to provide scholarships to the most promising young men to allow them to receive an additional year of education at a private prep school.
You only got one Rip, and he is unique for many reasons. One, a personality that is just right for that kind of job. So I think that we're fortunate that those things happened.
Somehow these men come along at the time when they're needed the most. I think Rip came along when he was needed the most, and I think the men in the foundation have been like that.
And Rip's idea of sending out his bird dogs? A few of the boys that his men recruited live on as football legends, with names like Beagle, Welsh, Gattuso, and Heisman Trophy winners Bellino and Staubach.
Friday night was the game where Roger was playing at the prep school. So on Saturday, when our game was being played, Rip's seat was next to me. He was retired at that time. And he came up and sat down beside me and hit me on the knee, and he said, "Have I got a football player for you?"
While Rip's contribution to Navy football is legendary, his greatest contribution to the Academy was his idea of the prep school program, a success that continues to this day.
The foundation helps us find those students that will make great leaders, but yet have not been given necessarily the academic preparation they need to succeed at a school so demanding as the Naval Academy.
The most important part of the foundation is a year of development, a year of maturity, a year of broader academic awareness for some of these young men and young women, developing study habits, good work ethic, etc., that may need to be tweaked just a bit.
Going to the Naval Academy Prep School was the best decision I ever made in my life. I was a year wiser, a year older, and just more ready to handle the rigors of plebe year.
That extra year of schooling and maturity really played in their favor, and I think that we saw that as many of them took leadership roles on the field, and also I think just within the brigade.
I got a lot stronger, a lot bigger, and a lot tougher with that extra year. Going from age 18 to 19, people tend to grow a lot, so I think that helped. And again, helped me get my confidence up too.
I think it produces probably some of the best officers, leaders, graduates that the Naval Academy has.
We end up bringing in a variety of young men and women from around the country who add value to the Brigade of Midshipmen. Whether they're athletes or not, the Foundation Prep Program brings in almost 50 young men and women a year now into the brigade, and with 90+% graduation rates coming from that group, they ultimately matriculate into leadership roles or are great Navy athletes while they're here, or both.
Matching the quality of these prep school students is the program's financial structure, which allows it to be self-sustaining.
There have been over 3,800 graduates from the Naval Academy since 1944 who attended Foundation Prep Schools. We're spending about $500,000 a year right now for the 50 students that we have in the program. We've had about 165 scholarships donated over the years. The funding goes into a common investment portfolio, and right now we've got enough invested so that the average market return, our investment proceeds every year, is enough to support the expenses every year that we have for scholarship prep school support.
During the 70s and 80s, Foundation trustees spent as much time enjoying the social club atmosphere of their meetings as they spent on recruiting and funding the prep school program. But the Academy thought the Foundation could do more and let them know just that.
We had a meeting with the new superintendent of the Naval Academy, who was Tom Lynch. He came in, and Tom gathered a few former athletes and had a meeting about the foundation and about our contribution to Naval Academy football. And he let us know in no uncertain terms that the foundation was not helping.
I had gone over to their executive committee meeting and as superintendent, and when Emil Minter was there and Holloway and all of them, and I would say, here's what we need. We need some coaches' housing.
He said, we've got a guy who is really, we look forward to him. He's a good coach. He's not a run-of-the-mill guy, but he loves it at the Naval Academy. He thinks he can do something with it. But his wife says she can't live in Annapolis because it's too expensive. And I got the group together, the foundation together, and said, we're going to buy this house. And Charlie Weatherby's going to sign the contract. Everybody agreed that it was a smart thing to do. A little later, Charlie came back and said, now we're starting a new year, but my coaches need quarters. And that's when we made the big decision. We went out and we bought 10 houses in nice areas in Annapolis. And the interesting thing is, we didn't give them to the guys. We rented them. The rent was the same amount as necessary to pay off the mortgage.
The leadership of Admiral Holloway didn't end with the issue of housing. He also considered the strategic picture of the foundation, and at the end of the century, decided it needed a fundamental change.
The amalgamation is really the legacy of Admiral Holloway and the work that he and his colleagues did in the 90s to bring what they knew needed to be a modern support structure for the public-private model of the Naval Academy into the 21st century.
I think several things led into it. One was the need for fundraising support for the Academy overall, in addition to the athletic and scholarship side of it. The other was the fact that we had a lot of people who were confused. Who's collecting money for what and where does it go? The need to consolidate, to organize better, to become more effective at fundraising was certainly clear. And Admiral Holloway used to preach to all of us about the need for better organizational capability to be more effective.
When we amalgamated back in 2000, we were called the Foundation, and the fundraisers at that time were called the Endowment Trust. And as Admiral Holloway pointed out a number of times, that organization was neither an endowment nor a trust, and so the name really didn't make any sense. Foundation is the commonly recognized best name for the fundraising organization at a college or a university.
At an annual meeting of this foundation, the Athletic Foundation, I said, I'm going to ask you guys to do something where you're going to have to trust me. And that is that I'm going to recommend that we give the endowment our name. I'm telling you that in my judgment, and I was asked to do this, there's no alternative.
It shows a forward-looking process in terms of integrating all those things into one fundraising capacity. And as a potential donor, even if external to this organization, I think it's valuable to really have a strong organization to donate to once or regularly rather than getting calls from multiple organizations seeking the same result.
As a result of the amalgamation, the original foundation became a division of the new foundation and was renamed the Athletic and Scholarship Programs. However, the A&SP support of Navy athletics never wavered.
The campaign, Leaders to Serve the Nation for the Naval Academy, initially started in the year 2000 after we had amalgamated. Specifically for the stadium, the goal was a $40 million three-phase renovation project, and Admiral Holloway at that time wrote a check for the first $5 million to do all the design work and really kind of light the fire and get things started.
This is not primarily a football stadium. It's primarily a wonderful open air area for our midshipmen to assemble, for graduations to take place, and of course it's also very useful as a venue for football and lacrosse. So with that, pockets were unzipped. Rick overtold his people to kick in. It went fine.
10 years ago, it was like a high school stadium and a rundown high school stadium. And yet this is the Navy and Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. So it took $45 million from our alumni, and now we have one of the premier mid-sized stadiums on the East Coast.
But the course corrections at the outset of the 21st century didn't end with Admiral Holloway. His successor, Admiral Lynch, had a few ideas of his own.
When Admiral Lynch came into the job, he said we're too male, stale, and pale, and as a result, we increased the number of trustees. We increased the diversity, and the average age has gone down quite a bit. We brought in a group of new members who are a lot more representative of the makeup of the Brigade of Midshipmen.
In many respects, we were a dormant organization. We were basically all male and basically all white. So we wanted to become more diverse.
The Navy often says that, you know, one of the great things about having diversity is being able to take people's differences and bring forth them together to better achieve a common goal.
It's diversity of opinion and perspective, and it can be hard, it can be challenging. You typically like to surround yourself by people who think like you, and you can all make a decision really easily. But it's harder to strive for and get and open your mind to other opinions, and that makes you better. It makes you stronger.
People cared more about what kind of person I was, what I would be able to contribute, more so than my gender or the year I had graduated from the academy.
We're trying to get quality former scholar athletes, former midshipmen, and who have excelled here at the Naval Academy, but have also excelled in their military career and their private life.
But how do you proactively increase your diversity without increasing your membership? One answer is to expand your Emeritus program.
The Emeritus program is a good start and a good effort in getting guys like me out of the way to provide room for younger people and still letting us participate socially, financially.
It allows you to still go to meetings and still be a trustee for all rights and privileges, but it brings in new people, new brains, new funds, new everything.
I think in order to be able to set a course for the future, you always have to be grounded in the past. And I think one of the best ways to accomplish that is to have the emeritus status.
I look to those individuals as sort of the great sages of the organization as they continue to stay engaged, but maybe don't have the direct responsibilities that they've had in the past. I think they're valuable assets to the organization as it moves forward.
There's so much history in this organization, and I really feel like we would lose that if we didn't have the emeritus program.
With the cultural shift of diversity underway, Admiral Lynch now turned his attention to the most important issue facing the A&SP, remaining relevant.
But if we want to be impactful and we want to be a sustaining organization, we need to remain and be relevant to the midshipmen and to the brigade and to the superintendent and to the athletic department.
So we decided on some initiatives, and working with the development organization, instituted a number of new fundraising activities. Well, the one I was most heavily involved with was a formal organization now called Friends of Navy Athletics. You had to give a minimum of $25,000 a year for a minimum of 5 years. So what we wanted to do is institutionalize a process where people were consistent donors in a major way to Navy athletics.
A really good source of income for the A&SP is class gift donations. Classes that were preparing for their 50th reunion, we're starting to give big amounts of money, and the development office meets with them. They've invited us to come in and speak to those groups about including athletic excellence.
And as the Academy's athletic director notes, the funds raised by the A&SP fuel the athletic margin of excellence.
The margin of excellence for me is the difference, between maintenance and significant advancement. It's the ability to be able to provide resources to our coaches and our midshipmen in a way that they can continue to feel confident that they have every ability to succeed. Maintenance is not a word that we use in our department. We don't talk about maintaining anything. We're always talking about upward trajectory. We're talking about the will to win, and we're talking about expecting to win in everything that we do. And to develop that mindset, you have to have, again, the confidence that you have, the support, and the resources that you need.
There's a lot of different types of things that Chet can do with the athletic excellence support that is provided by the foundation. Normally averaging about $1.5 million a year to cover programs that he might not otherwise be able to cover.
When athletic excellence is achieved, the trustees believe recognition drives future success.
But what about the women's cross-country coach? What about the gymnastics coach, the golf coach? I thought this is a great way for them to have some recognition, going through all their accomplishments and understanding who beat Army, who won their conference, who's this and who's that. So that was kind of good to rack and stack the coaches. And then certainly the athletes, going through, reading their company officers' critiques, their coaches' critiques. One of the highlights is being able to recognize the troops, the athletes, the students. And this is just a good way to be part of that recognition.
We now recognize 3 varsity coaches every year, one for the fall, one for the winter, and one for the spring set. And these are coaches that instill leadership traits and ethical traits that we want to have in our graduates. In addition, we've got about a dozen trophies that represent not just athletic excellence, but also leadership and academic excellence within the brigade. We've also got other ones that just recognize all-around good athletic performance by foundation-sponsored students that are now midshipmen before they graduate, and it could be club and intramural sports. So we try to recognize excellence not just in athletics, but also in leadership and academics as well.
Monetary donations are only one of the ways trustees work to enhance Academy athletics. The VIC is another.
The Volunteer Involvement Committee gives all the trustees the opportunity to give back more than just their treasure. They can also give back their time and their expertise and their talent.
The trustees are the conscience of Navy athletics. It's the continuity, connecting the heritage to the present to what we hope in the future. And our first project was, in fact, the showcases, which were in deplorable condition. It was obviously we had our work cut out for us.
And so we've taken that on as a project, and we've cleaned up and categorized and renovated all the trophy cases around the yard. We have a kiosk, so you can come to the Naval Academy, you plug in your name, and it'll tell everything you did at the Naval Academy. Obviously, football and lacrosse and baseball, they're going to have pretty good locker rooms, but what about women's crew? What about the sailing? These are things that kind of fall through the cracks, but critical things that need to be done.
Looking out over the horizon, what challenges lie ahead?
I think the main challenge is going to be to continue to look for what can we do new? What is going to take us to the next level? We've talked about programs for housing. We've talked about programs for bequests. We've talked about programs for class gifts. We need to continue to do that. And Chet Gladchuk is one of the best people that I've ever heard at not looking at the present or the past, but always looking to the future. And anytime you're with him, he's thinking about what's the next step, what's the next step. We need to be able to do that too.
We have to maintain the margin of excellence, and we have to always be looking at the environment that we are operating in and what our competition is doing.
We're going to be consistently competing every week with quality teams, and we have to match those teams in terms of resources. As a result, I think our athletic excellence fundraising area has to continue to grow.
To sustain your relevance in sports and physical mission in the time you're in takes constant work. You're never satisfied, there's no rearview mirrors, and you don't get credit for what you did the day before. So going forward, I would expect we'll invest in the infrastructure necessary to stay competitive.
As we move forward, we could leverage technology in a more integral way in promoting what we do, networking our organization as we bring in more younger members. I think there are a lot of opportunities to leverage technology to enhance the organization's collegiality, but also to promote our effectiveness.
From its origin as the Naval Academy Foundation to today's athletic and scholarship programs, the mission remains the same. Provide midshipmen with the margin of excellence.
So I think these two legs that we stand on, of the funding to the NAAA and the prep school program, has a very bright future.
If you look at an organization that has a very rich history, that has a very solid mission that everybody within it accepts, and that continues to bring in new blood that has experience, leadership, and quality people, that organization is definitely going to continue to succeed.
Well, everything about the foundation resonates with people. That's why I am so emotionally committed to do everything I can to further develop the relationship between the foundation, the academy, and the NAAA.
Whenever a superintendent comes in and talks, you get a sense of their understanding about what this audience is, what this audience has contributed, not just to the academy, but to our country. It's a trusted group that they can come to. It's a group that provides that margin of excellence.
I'm so very appreciative of the fact that the foundation maintains the high standards that we expect of our student athletes. And the foundation has spent an enormous amount of time in helping us do just that, to ensure that the brigade is well-rounded and representative of all those ideals that we hold dear. I would only say I'm just so deeply grateful for all those people that have worked so hard to make this program such a success.
It's better than Rip would ever have imagined. He never would have imagined how large it got. He would be delighted.